Welcome to our fall 2021 class. This is cross-cultural communications. So the idea of the student requirements, what you can see here online and the other PPT talking about actual cross-cultural communication lesson for this week are completely different. But I like both. I look forward to being able to insult Donald Trump. I mean, talk about Donald Trump soon, but I want to first talk about what I think you think is important. So I think students think what is most important is talking about the grading. So we will talk about that now. Again, my contacts are here. There's 3 different TAs you can contact here. The YouTube videos are here. Let's get into the class. Congratulations. Times are changing really fast. More importantly, with globalization and the move online, and with the technology, Industry 4.0, the industrial technology revolution, even more important than that is the move from Europe and from North America towards East Asia. China and Vietnam are becoming increasingly the center of the world. So it's a good idea to realize that, learn about your environment, learn about these numerous opportunities available, and how there are many valuable university resources like the library, millions of dollars of information. As long as you understand some of that stuff, research what is around you first, then you can communicate and do much better than others. So use the alumni also around you, use the professors around you, use me. I work for you, you pay the bills, so you're the boss. With these rapid changes, many people are now online and they are open-minded to new activities. Consider that 2, 3, 4, 5 times. If you know of a company that you want to work with, or if you know of a professor that you heard might be really good in some other country, tell me. Let's contact them. There's a very good chance they will agree to pop in and talk with our class by Zoom. Everybody has the computer open. It doesn't take much more energy. We can bring other people in to talk with us. In the past, last semester, I believe there was people from Samsung, and let me just invite a couple more late people into the group. We had people from Samsung, we had people from Korea, Canada, Vietnam, Denmark, China, all talking with the class. If you find somebody interesting, let me know. We might be able to invite them. Leverage my experiences. I've worked with several people. Last semester and the semester before, I invited several people in, but some of the students in Kaemyong weren't really excited. They didn't really talk too much. So I won't do it this semester unless you tell me you're interested. I do have 20 years of education experience here in Asia and in North America. And while I was doing that, I was also working with corporations for a lot of the time. So use that hopefully to develop yourself, strive for a better future for yourself, start planning, doing proactively now. Overall, Clifford, are you here? Would you like to explain what this green box is at the top of the screen? About 160 hours per week.
So as I understand, so because everyone, so we have only the same number of the time, so but we might use this differently. So hopefully we know how to set up the time and for our own life and for work and for our life, effectively and happily.
Yeah, overall, what I'm saying is a lot of people waste a lot of time. If you understand the big picture, that you could develop your time so that you get much better results overall. Most people only work 35 to 45 hours per week. And even with the amount of time you're sleeping, you still have 72 hours extra each week. So stop wasting your time, start doing. That's a quote from Elon Musk, and I definitely agree. So let's look at the next slide. about our class. We want to communicate what is required. You are required to understand you can get 100 marks. Some students I've actually given a grade of 100 for the final mark. You can get 10 marks for attendance, 10 marks for participation, 15 marks for introducing a project you like and why it's important. So understand overall for our class, similar to how I've always been teaching, you can do a group project talking about cross-cultural communications and something that you're interested in doing. So week 3, introduce that topic. Why is it important? 15 marks. Week 5, talk about the background, what other people are saying about that project. That's another 15 marks. Then week 6, 7, and 9, what was the student? Was it Alina or, I don't know, Gwen? One student, no, it wasn't Gwen. Anyway, one student, I'm guessing maybe she was from Germany. She was saying she's focused on surveys. Well, if you have a survey plan, and then you can introduce that plan and start surveying people and present your project by week 7. And then if you can go interact with a company and show what type of results you had in week 9, that would be a good idea. Some people get very serious about that. I don't. I am focused on the idea that you should learn to be a specialist on your own and take advantage of the opportunity to communicate with a company you want to work with. So hopefully that's clear. If you have any questions, you can talk to me and you can talk to the TAs at any time. And there's also many links where I give you lots of extra information. So next, what is the attendance details? The attendance and class contribution overall or participation, that's 20 points. For attendance marks, the student should register their name in English and then sign the attendance list, the Zoom chat, write your name in English, your student ID, as soon as the class is started. So Clifford or Tuang or Hua, can you tell me, have many students identified themselves in the chat? I see only 2 chats, but I don't see all students have signed up. If you want attendance points, just write your name, your student number. That's all that's required. If you do have another question or comment, you can write that there, but write it at the beginning of class and then sign out, write something at the end of the class. Also, that's just your attendance points. For participation marks, either keep your video on and actively attempt to communicate, to try to be a leader, try to be a manager, try to share something in class, or write something in the chats or in the breakout rooms, or you can contribute some of these details in the Facebook group. Wow, we jumped from 2 up to 18 people have signed into the chats now. Good. And while I'm presenting weekly topics, I encourage you guys in your groups to comment and share and help talk about these weekly comments. So that's where the participation points will come from. Your group project is more important. That's 80 marks. You need to find in your group a group project that you can work on together. 3rd week, you need to introduce it, why it's important, what's the importance of the topic, why should the world care, be as specific as possible. Week 5, talk about what other people are saying, especially the reliable people. You can show me a quote from Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok or whatever you can use for reference. Newspapers, CNN, BBC, those things are good for new information, but they are not the most reliable sources of information in the world. Those communications are often wrong. So you need to find the reliable stuff, and that's usually called the Scopus journal articles or the Web of Science. Share about 7 to 10 of those, minimum 7, usually 10 or more in your project. And that would be a good way to identify in week 5 what other people are saying. And then identify your survey plan. Start talking about it. And then summarize everything in the class for week 7. And week 8, we have a break. During our midterm break, you can go and talk to some companies and come back and tell us what you have so far in week 9. Perhaps just ask questions in week 9 and then start preparing to present your final project as a specialist to the world. Not just to us, because our class is video recorded, it's going to be to the world. So try to teach the world something new. You can do it verbally with your 2 or 3 people in your group talking, or you can make a video, a YouTube video, and introduce that video, and the video can do the professional presentation, and then you can answer some questions afterwards. Either way, save and develop your research project in a Google Drive folder, as you can see here, and share that information with the teaching team so that we are the editor, so that we can give you some suggestions for developing your projects. If you have any questions about how to work with that, you can click on here to get a training session. Next, just a summary. Week 3 is the introduction. Week 5 is talking about the background literature, what other people are saying. Week 6, 7, 8, and 9 is talking about the survey details. Week 7 is presenting what you have so far, especially the introduction and the background literature. And then the final presentation with everything will be presented at the latest in week 14. But it's best if you, one more time, if you present this perhaps in week 12 or week 13. Because we have a big class, I understand there may be close to 30 or 32 people in class. You may want to present before week 14 to make sure you get those final marks. If you only wait to the very last class and then realize many people are trying to present there, there's a very good chance we will run out of time. So do not run out of time. Present early. Manage your communications effectively. So how to communicate? This is the most popular way for social sciences people to communicate. And again, I'm not teaching this. This is just the class requirements. Give a summary of what you have found with your research. Talk about why your topic is important, what other people are saying, your survey and your methodology, what you found, then what you think the findings mean, and make sure you reference. Ideally, the academics use the terminology abstract, introduction, background literature, methods, results, conclusion. And if you don't reference properly, you may fail. So make sure you understand how to reference. Also, I'll give away free bonus points. I believe Mr. Jung can easily talk about how I give away many bonus points if you're proactive. Well, for our class, you'll get extra bonus points if you also talk about how you might be able to work with a grant. You do not have to have a grant. You do not have to do a lot of hard work for it. Just show me you understand it. Many grant applications are about 400 words. So do a short presentation about how you could work with a grant. And again, as I said, work with a video and you may get bonus points for that. Otherwise, with communication, I admit I make many mistakes and I know that I do not know many things. So if you think you know a better thing to teach or talk about in class, especially if you think that there's a better way to evaluate the class, you can make a suggestion and the class will consider that. But you have to do that, you have to talk before the end of week 2. I can make those changes easily in week 1. It's harder to make changes in week 2. And I think administration will not let me change the evaluation style of the class after week 3. But from now to then, speak up. If you want to change part of the class, that's possible. So when you are going to communicate, you can communicate like Donald Trump and just tell a lot of crap to a lot of people, or you can be like Dr. Fauci and just give the facts, the good, reliable stuff. I want you to be aware that both are important. You need to know reliable stuff. You have to reference reliable Scopus articles in your presentation. Those are the most respected, most reliable details, but they can take a long time to be checked by other experts. Sometimes it takes 7 to 8 years for new research to be published. So it's good to also work with the new stuff. The new stuff is not as reliable, it's not as trusted, but people are talking about it. People are saying it or writing it. So you can use it. Use things from Facebook or blogs or CNN or BBC or even educational organizations. Most of these people only say what's attractive or interesting or sexy. They don't talk about boring things or negative things. So be aware of that. Reference lots. How to reference? You need to list the author's name, last name first, then the first initial, and then the year of publication, the title of the paper, title of the journal, the volume number, the page number, the DOI, digital object identifier, or the exact website. This stuff you need to have almost all the time. And in each slide where you're referencing details, have the last name and the date of publishing. That's the in-text reference. If you don't, you'll have a problem. So the most important part, how to start your term paper. Try to find something you love. There are millions of articles that are written and reliable and respectable, like Scopus articles, millions. Go through any ones you want, find some that are relating to class and that are interesting to you, and then just replicate that same style and format. Just change the focus details. Make your own new topic so that you have specialization that you can help a company with or to get a job. For example, focus on Korea or your dream employer, exactly like this student did before. Make sure you understand these published articles and new ideas. You should try to have a new hot topic and identify if it's going to help a company or an employer. If it's interesting, make sure it has to be teaching something new. Does it add knowledge and help maybe with an alumni or contacts in the company? Are you able to replicate the respectable, reliable format? If you're doing this, that is where you'll get 80 to 90% of your presentation, your class marks. These are examples of what it can look like in week 7 or at the end. You can have a folder. Every student must have access to a folder of many different articles that they're reviewing and your paper and your PPT that you're developing. And then in week 7, you can present a presentation of that. So these are examples to that. This is just showing if you are new to Korea, if you're new to the university, you should be aware that university libraries pay millions of dollars to access information. So if you use the library, you can get much more valuable information than if you just use Google. Just open the library, library.kmu.ac.kr, then search for anything you want. After you start searching, you will see the search results. Go to the content provider and click on Scopus, because Scopus is the reliable information. Once you find these little orange boxes, you click on those to download them. And you will see that hopefully you can log in and then download the article. Otherwise, talk to administration, talk to KEC, talk to the teaching team or me, and we'll help you identify how to get those reliable articles so that you have something you love. And with these articles that you love, you replicate the same style and format, but you focus perhaps on Korea or a company like L'Oreal's Cosmetics, but you have the same style, the same type of abstract, same type of keyword, same type of introduction. And you can develop your specialization in the same way. So every one of you should be able to share with me a link to a Google Drive folder where you're going to save many of these valuable articles. Each one might be worth $50. So this could be worth $1,000 just in articles. And if you summarize them and talk about how they can help a company, you add value to it, it could be worth $5,000 or $10,000 in a report. So share that with me and I'll talk about how you can improve that. You do not have to actually write a full paper, but if you do, it's easier to get the highest marks. You only have to make a final PowerPoint presentation with these details to the class. So if you are, again, trying to get a folder of many valuable articles related to a similar topic, and then you present that to a company, that company employer should appreciate you. You're giving them lots of valuable information from the most respected, reliable, maybe brilliant minds in the world. So you can definitely start talking with them. You don't have to wait in line for a job. And then if you want to revise details of your research to more specifically help the company, that could be considered an internship. So you can make your own internship and get a job. Several of my students in the past have done that. They've created their own internship with the company. The company was happy, and then the company offered them full-time jobs. So please be aware of that. Next, you are aware almost all good classes, I'll say good classes because that's mine too, they get students to develop some sort of paper or project, and that's what we're doing. That's all you have to do. That's the regular work, but that's the hardest part of classwork. If you think wisely, if you communicate better with the world and know your environment, you can work with your alumni, the people that have graduated, and you can work with a local company and create your paper for helping that local company. And then after you finish your project or your paper, you can publish that in a school newspaper, a school journal, or an international journal. And that publication can go on your CV and build your resume. So your resume is better than other people's resume that are in the same age or classification of you. So it's easier for you to get jobs also. Next, most valuable is to realize the North American way of graduate students and the European way of graduate students to start their studies is to start by getting a grant. Know that most big multinational companies give a crazy amount of money back to the world, just like a donation, so that the newspapers and TV see that and show the world they're giving money back so that they look nice. And that's part of the corporate social responsibility grants. So if you do that, you can get a grant, you can get money to pay to develop your project that will help a company so you will actually do better going forward. Make sure you proactively plan these details. Develop the stuff daily, weekly, monthly. Develop yourself. Or if you don't, if you fail to plan, that is planning to fail. So ultimately, look towards your goals and your dreams all the time. Each class we have should be helping you with that. With communications, in our cross-cultural communications class, we say that we are at the bottom of these steps towards happiness and success in life. Find somebody at a higher level, interact with them, communicate with them, and they can lift you up so that you're closer to your dream goals, or they can lift you up and introduce you to somebody that can help you get closer to your goals. So communication is key. Obviously, communicate with the graduates of your university, your alumni. They're almost required to help you, but communication is key. So most people just follow other people. Consider wiser strategies in the big picture. Students think minimally about the books and class details, and they only, many students, especially in Korea, they think seriously about jobs just after graduation. It is much, much better if you start thinking about jobs now. Make it into a game, make it fun. Develop your specialization, each day, each week, each month going forward. Leverage these class projects and a different view for more benefit. For example, with your student paper and almost no extra effort, students can get a lot more benefit. You could talk to an executive and get an internship. You could apply for a grant and get paid to do the classwork. You could get a publication with your resume, and so your resume is better. You can have a consulting report and use that to help a company or help your resume. You can develop these connections with companies so you improve your chances of getting a job. Leverage the alumni connections that are working around you and with these companies because they'll help you get into these companies. And get the big picture experience. See how you can help multinational companies, world experts, classmates, and your dream company. You may get grant funding to help that dream company with experts from around the world so that people love you. So focus your new term paper on a company and Q4 publishing. Leverage these benefits of corporate social responsibility. Work wisely going forward, and your communications will be much, much better. If you don't know what you want to do, if you don't know what career you want, you can start and identify your characteristics and your interests. Write them down on a blank piece of paper, and your characteristics, if you flip that paper over, will identify what type of job might match you. So you just write down your characteristics and get your friends to write down some of your characteristics on a piece of paper, and then get your friends to also guess what type of jobs match that. And that type of activity is usually very precise in identifying what type of career or job matches you. That's the simplest way to do it. You can go through much more advanced details like humanmetrics.com or 16personalities.com. They are more advanced and they will tell you in greater detail what specific career matches you and what specific type of person matches you for dating, for a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, how to talk to your boss, how to change and understand your learning styles and your communication styles. It says there's only 16 different personality types in the world. If you understand them and match your career to them, it's a lot easier in life. And it's not very difficult. Generally, there's 30 to 60 simple questions, and you're just answering yes or no, or very much yes, or very much no. And ultimately, these are part of Carl Jung's or the Briggs-Meyer typology tests that indicate what is your characteristic and career orientation. So, for communicating overall, it's best if we identify what is the culture around us. How do people communicate around us? And so we identify many different countries' characteristics. This is not my opinion. These are just research results from other people. This shows that Korea's communication and characteristics, they have the highest uncertainty avoidance almost in the world. They have a low level of tolerance for uncertainty. They have very strict rules, very strict laws, policies, and regulations adopted and implemented to try to control everything. They try to eliminate or avoid the unexpected. Korea does not usually accept change. It's very risk adverse. So if you understand that, for example, and you want a job, just walking up to a company saying, I want a job, that company executive, they don't know who you are. They may not feel comfortable talking with you. They may just hang up or they may close the door. So if you say that an alumni, another person working with you introduced you, then that executive is more likely to continue talking with you. And of course, if you identify how you know about the company, you know what they're trying to do, and you have 10 different research reports from the best minds, most respected, reliable research reports in the world summarized for them, and you can give that to them, that alone would probably open the door. The company executives would talk to you. However, Korea also deals with a lot of power distance. As we see here, power distance in Korea is pretty high. That means less powerful members of organizations or companies accept and expect power is unequal, which means if you go to a company and you start talking to an executive, usually the executive is considered pretty high level. And in Korea, students are usually considered pretty low level. So if you have a high level executive and you tell them that you're a student, hi, I'm student Sean, would you talk to me today? They'll just hang up the phone or close the door. Not always, but the power distance cultural characteristics shows that's a popular way that Koreans communicate. It's better if you just show you have met a high, powerful, respected company executive, and you have a very high, powerful, respected, great research report that would help that executive. If you're talking at the same level, they will talk to you. There's no need to say you're a student. Also understand that when you're communicating with the same type of people usually is easier than communicating with people that is very different. So which cultures are the same as Korean? It's interesting to see. Korea and El Salvador are one more time. Korea and El Salvador, those cultures are almost the exact same. They are almost twins. You can see here purple and green. Purple, green, almost same. Purple, green, almost exactly same. Purple, green, again, almost exactly the same. So El Salvador, Korea, and Venezuela are very similar with culture. United States, orange and green, different. Orange and green, very different. So there's big differences here. However, the biggest difference is Denmark. Denmark, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, they have some of the biggest, most different, opposite cultures in the world. Sometimes communicating with them may be shocking. For example, they think the president of a country or the president or CEO of a big executive company is no different than a student. Versus here, if the president or the CEO of a big company is coming, everybody gets out of the way, and maybe even the police push people out of the way because there's this big power difference. So just be aware of that. That's one of the steps for cross-cultural communications. For our class projects, it helps to understand your environment. What is happening? One more time. What is happening around you now? It's good to know the printing press was created in the 1400s. That changed the world. Lots of things changed. Then we had the first reliable book, which was the journal, and that happened around 1663. Many things changed. And then we had the invention of the telegraph and then the telephone in 1930s. That changed the world a lot. And then the same thing with the radio and the TV and the internet. The world changed a lot. But what I want you guys to realize is it's 2021, almost 2022. The world is changing faster now than ever before. Coronavirus has been incredible at changing a lot of things. Everybody is now online. Everybody is able to work with anybody else online at any time. And it's not just focused on United States. China and Vietnam are becoming faster growing and more valuable, more powerful than United States. Be aware of that. Know this book, The Outliers. It's just a simple book. I can summarize it to you. What this book says is that everybody in the world is basically equal. Nobody is really different. A lot of things in life, a lot of success with supports or business, it's not because they have a different communication style. It's mostly because of their environment. And if you look at Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, you will see they're not geniuses in the sense that they're aliens. It's just that they had an incredible opportunity with time. They were born at the same time, 1955. So why should we care? Because when they were both in elementary school, middle school, that's the first time the world ever had personal computers coming out. And they were some of the first people to ever have access to personal computers. And so they were playing with them more than anybody else could or did in life. So by the time they got to university, they already knew more than the university professors. They dropped out. That is what made them successful. So you have more opportunities than them. You should know that they're not that successful. They're a heck of a lot wealthier than I am. But as you can see, Bill Gates has about $100 billion, but that's 2021. Back in 1839, Rockefellers, they had $663 billion from oil. And then the Carnegies with steel, they had billions of dollars back in the same time, 1835, 1837, JP Morgan, the banking, steel, electricity, about the same time, the Vanderbilts with shipping. So this was a time where people had greater successes. This is something that you notice because you're living in this same time. But please be aware that coronavirus, in many ways, it's a good thing. They're making the world come together. They're making companies break up. You don't have to be sheltered in brick buildings together with other people. You can work from anywhere, at any time, as long as you have the talents. So start learning and developing your talents. Start developing your specializations. Some people say universities will disappear. Schools may disappear. Why? Because almost all of the possible education is now for free on YouTube or online or on MOOCs. Learn about those details. Companies like Alphabet and Amazon or Tesla, they're quite frequently talking about how you don't need a university degree. As long as you know these skills and you can learn those online for free, you can get jobs with them. But what's more important with these companies, some of these companies are worth trillions of dollars, more than $2 trillion for Apple. Microsoft, again, almost $2 trillion. Make sure you know these big companies have so much money, they have to give money away or people will hate them. They usually give them to students. So be aware of that. Start applying for that and you might be able to get paid to do your class project. Companies and executives make lots and they give back with grants. So think big, dream big, go big. Don't just sit quietly. We have 29 people in class and I'm the only guy talking and I'm really old. Why? Why am I the only one talking? Is it because you think I'm super, am I the top 1% and you guys don't match me or you're not equal to me or something like that? Absolutely not. We're all the same. You should understand that the top 1% basically own almost half of the assets of the world. I think it's the top 8 individuals, the top 8 families own more than half of the world's assets. And then more than half of the world's people own almost nothing. Be aware of that when you're communicating. Understand communications and the background of other people, and it helps when you're communicating. For example, you know Tesla and Toyota and Ford, GM. Well, the Ford company, they are giving away more than $25 million every year, and all they ask for to get some of that money is just 100 words to describe our organization, Kim Young University, 100 words to describe the people you work with, like my resume or the director of some program or maybe the chairman or the chair lady of the international business program in KAC. Get those people, get together, describe those people in 100 words, and 100 words talk about what is the purpose of your project. 100 words talk about why the world should care, and then just give your first name, last name, email address, and the amount of money you want, and you could win a crazy amount of money. How much? It depends on the company and it depends on the application, but almost all big companies from 3Com, 3M, American Airlines, American Express, Chrysler, Citibank, the eBay, FedEx, Ford Company, Merrill Lynch, Microsoft, almost all big companies have an office inside their marketing department. It's usually called a foundation office or a philanthropy office, where they will be giving away these grants. Talk to them, research them, and you will see that the average grant size they give away is like samok, or what's this? Chip samok. So $300,000 to $1.3 million is normal for them to give away. As we can see here, in Korea, there was 822 people recently. They applied and they got $1.09 billion in grants. I believe that mathematics shows $1.3 million each applicant. And then down in Vietnam, you see there was 402 people applying for $125 million. That also equals $300,000. So again, think big, go big. Find out what the companies are comfortable giving it away and ask for money to do that. And it could be very short, as we identified, maybe just 400 words. And then talk about how you're going to do some research project, abstract, introduction, background literature, methods, results, conclusion, with proper referencing. You share a video about that. That might impress them even more. And if you do work with a grant application, or even identify a grant details that you could work with, you definitely don't have to win a grant, but if you work with identifying some of these details, I'll give you bonus points. So practice whatever your specialty is. Start communicating it. Don't just sit quietly in class. You have a lot of time every week. Start using that time. Don't waste that time. Most people waste 72 hours every week. Even though they're working full time and sleeping properly, they still have 72 hours extra you could use. Start using that to develop your specialization. Just like Bill Gates did, just like Mozart did, just like the Beatles did. So you can do these things and start developing your success now. Start communicating for your success. That's it for our class requirements. Now we're going to get into what is our class and what I'm teaching. Know that I love to talk. I love to help. I love to share information with you. And we have several people in the teaching team that will help you. Contact us at any time and we can share some of these links. If you have any questions for me, I will answer almost anything. My wife is a Korean lady. She might not like if I talk about too much, but I usually do. And my 4 kids, we can talk about anything. But overall, are there any questions about the class format? Otherwise, we're getting into what we actually teach in class. And so international communication, again, you have my contacts, subscribe to the YouTube channel, sign up, see some of these other videos. There's lots of videos talking about this stuff. You can talk to the TAs. There's several TAs. 2 of the TAs should be eventually sharing their information. It's in the class outline. But what are we talking about? How to communicate. How to do cross-cultural communication. You guys know this guy. This guy, is he good or bad? Well, it depends what you want to communicate. How many of you would say this guy is good? Would you like me to show you a video of what not to do? Let's go on to the next one. Maybe it's even more interesting. This is just a summary. Since how many other people might say something good about Trump now that I'm showing you some more details?
Pakistan.
Okay.
I think uh, the one president who's the public enjoyed his press conference because he's the most entertaining person, entertainer, a good entertainer.
So he's a good entertainer. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else? You see what I'm showing on the screen right now. Would you like to make any comments about that? How well is Donald Trump known for cross-cultural communications? Does he respect other cultures? Does he communicate well for Black culture or Indian culture or Haitian or African culture or just female culture? Any comments about that?
I think he's believing in white supremacy.
White supremacists, perhaps. I think he's terrible, terrible, terrible man. He's a terrible human being. But what would you say about how he promotes himself, how he communicates about his Trump companies?
Like his slogan is "Make America Great Again," and this is it's also another reason that he believes in a supremacy because he looks at America as a superpower. We are everything, something like that.
Yeah, I think that he promotes himself and he promotes what he likes a lot. And anything that's not related to himself, anything that's related to something else, he basically insults a lot. So learn how to promote yourselves, especially the Korean students in class. Learn how to don't be avoiding uncertainty. Take a chance because many foreign cultures, it's considered rude if you are just quiet, if you don't talk. Some people may respect Trump because he talks so easily, he talks so quickly. He will answer almost anybody, even if he doesn't know what he's talking about, even if he says very bad things. Arfin, how are you? Can you start by telling me how much more time do we have in class? And then how do you comment about Trump? How much time do we have left in class?
So, Professor, I think we have almost 15 minutes more because our class will end 1:50.
Great. So we've got 18 minutes left.
Yeah,
we don't need to just keep talking about Trump for 18 minutes, but what do you feel about cross-cultural communications? When did you start thinking about cross-cultural communications? Do you like the way that Trump manages cross-cultural communications? What would you like to add?
So, in my opinion, I think as Trump likes to promote himself rather than caring about other emotions and others' feelings. So they try to promote their own views and try to impose their views to the other people who are engaging with that. So
good. So I just wanted to show you there are videos. If you want, you can go in and you can see there's several videos in my YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. Go through some of those videos. You can see the second slide. There's a link here to watch the video. And basically, it just keeps insulting other cultures. It's insulting Chinese culture. It's insulting Chinese people. It's insulting Chinese Americans. And he doesn't even seem to know it. So I want you guys in class to be aware of the world, number one. Be aware of the other culture where you are, number one. And then listen first and try communicating the same way. Sometimes, like in Korea, it's good to be just obedient and quiet and obedient. But outside of Korea, many places that's considered bad if you're just quiet. It's better to be like Trump and talk a lot, even if you don't know some things. Seriously, it's hard to believe, but it is. So I want to teach our class the nature of intercultural communication. We're going to be teaching you about these words. To start with, some of these might be hard to even say. Globalization versus glocalization versus globalization. And then the idea of culture. What is culture? We have to understand that. That might be easy to understand, culture. Ethnocentrism is a big thing that I talk about a lot. What is ethnocentrism? Anybody know what's ethnocentrism or parochialism? Anybody want to guess? How much do you know about culture? Our class is talking about cross-cultural communication, which is interesting because everybody is born and we don't know any culture. When you're born, you only know one culture. You only know what the doctor says or what your mother does. And so you know one. And you think everybody in the world is going to be the same. So you think there's only one culture. Once you get a little bit more advanced, you grow out of that phase. That first phase of only knowing one, that's called being parochial. And although it's natural, and everybody in the world starts that way as a baby, it's actually bad. It's ignorant. Should I say it's like Trump? But if you do have education, you will learn about other cultures. You will be aware that there is a Chinese culture. There is a Argentinian culture. There is a Mexican culture. There is a Kenyan culture, French culture, German culture. And that is when you rise to a different level and you're called ethnocentric. That is ethnocentrism. You know there are other types of cultures, but you don't really understand them and you still think your own is the best. The other ones are strange. And absolutely, Donald Trump is ethnocentric. He knows there are Chinese ways. He knows there's Korean or there's African ways. But he calls those what? What does he actually say?
It was shitholes.
Oh my God.
Quite literally.
I didn't say that. Since we're recording the YouTube video, I didn't say it. Somebody else did. But yes, it's shocking. That is called ethnocentric. Why? The problem is you know there's a different culture, but you just don't try to understand it. So you say something bad about it because you don't understand it. I'm going to be teaching you, you should try to invest to understand the other thing. Otherwise, you're going to be the same as Donald Trump.
Could I just say something? From my opinion, I think he does understand the culture, maybe. But the problem is more like that he has to talk like the people he represents or the people who elected him into office. And mostly of them don't understand the culture, so they do not care if he does or not. That's I think more of the problem, because if he would be so stupid not to know any culture or not to understand any culture, I mean, he insulted nearly every country in the world. So I think he knows what he's doing, but I think also that is all like calculated in his mind. So that does even make him more dangerous than just somebody who does not know what he's doing.
Exactly. So if you really want to be successful, don't just understand the other countries. You need to understand anybody that's around you that's important. And so what you're saying is Donald Trump thinks the most important people around him are American voters. Specifically, I think you're saying they're not the most intelligent American voters. They're a different
That's what you said. I didn't say that.
So they're a different type of American voter. And so he's trying to make them happy and excited to talk about something. So he says things to get those people, the voters, excited and maybe happy with him, even though he might love them. Okay, good. Maybe when he's in Africa or when he's in Haiti or India, he says different things. Maybe. So that is a smart thing to learn. And I absolutely agree. You should all learn some things from Donald Trump. Definitely not everything. Not everything. but learn some things. Learn to be proactive. Learn to at least be able to speak with other people around. A lot of people in Korea usually don't. They stay quiet. And it helps to understand that. So parochialism is how we're born. We only know one way. After you learn some other ways, but you don't really understand them, that's when you're called ethnocentric. And not Donald Trump is not that important. A more famous man that's ethnocentric, that knows of other cultures, but doesn't appreciate the other cultures, all of you know. His name was Adolf Hitler. So don't be Adolf Hitler. Don't be ethnocentric. Invest your time, invest your energy to try to understand the people that you think are around you that are important and connect with them. So understand, what are the norms, what are the rules, what are the roles and the networks of people that you want to connect with. Understand that yourself, your brain is a communication barrier, your own natural way of being parochial. And then after you get educated, you're ethnocentric. Those are barriers. There's many barriers. And then you get into multinational management orientations. And then you learn even more complicated words like enculturation or acculturation. Anybody know what is the difference between those words, or what is the definition of those words? Can I give any bonus points, extra participation points for that? Every one of you could be searching on Google now. I'll just tell you. Enculturation just means you know and accept your own culture. You're learning about your own culture. Almost everybody does that. Maybe not. That could be a mistake. Some people, actually many people, they grow their whole lives, they live their whole lives, and they don't understand their own culture. I've asked many people to describe their culture, and maybe next class when we have more time, I will do that again. And they still can't clearly identify how they are different than somebody else. So enculturation is when you start to study your culture. Acculturation is when you start to learn about another culture. So we are going to be learning both. We're going to learn about our own culture, enculturation, and we're going to learn about acculturation, other cultures. And then, of course, subcultures and subgroups. So, examples of miscommunication. Many of them right here. Donald Trump. Don't do this. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you have certain voters who you want to promote. Please don't insult many other parts of the world. Don't try to get people to be racist. Don't try to get borders up to separate people. My philosophy, my character is to try to make sure people work together. I like coronavirus because now almost everybody's online from anywhere in the world, and everybody's basically equal online. Be aware of that. Jobs are changing. You are now competing with people from Venezuela that has a currency that dissolved. So they're working for very, very low amounts. Or you're working with people possibly from North Korea, if they're super, super lucky. They don't have a lot of internet there. Or Nepal, where it's very, very low. You're competing with them for jobs. So can somebody help me read this? Any volunteers to read? Hopefully a Korean person can read this first, because you need the most practice to overcome your uncertainty avoidance. Any Koreans in class want to practice reading this?
May I?
You sure may.
Telex sent to a factory manager of a U.S. subsidiary in Lima, Peru. Please send a head count of the people in your factory and in your office, broken down by sex. Information urgent. The local manager, a Peruvian, replied, "Here's your head count. We have 30 in the factory, 15 in the office, 5 in the hospital, on sick leave, none broken down by sex. If you must know, our program is here with our call."
Okay, what does that mean? What am I talking about? First of all, what is a telex? Am I just too old to understand this example?
Is it like a fax or something?
Yeah,
like...
it's exactly. Somebody sent a fax. Where is Lima? What country is? Yes.
Obviously, Peru.
What is a country beside Lima? Can anybody name a country close to
Colombia?
Lima? Good.
Chile.
Colombia. Anybody from Chile or Colombia or Peru? Does anybody agree that you are not broken down by sex? You're broken down by drinking and alcohol or drugs more than being broken down by sex? What does that mean when somebody is broken by sex? You guys are too shy.
Is it when you divide people like female and male? Is it like that?
Yes. So we have an intelligent person in class. Yes, that's what it means. What they're actually saying is divided by gender, not just sex. But in United States, in this country where they're talking about, like Canada, United States, England, many people will say sex or gender, it's the exact same thing. But sex obviously has another secret meaning. It's talking about guy and girl, ha ha ha, or guy, could be girl and girl, guy and guy, whatever, two people having intercourse, right? And so the factory worker thinks, why is this guy talking about intercourse and sex and getting busy when we're talking about this? But he's the boss. I have to answer them. And so I tell him, we don't have accidents from sex. If we have problems, it's because of drugs or alcohol. So that's just an example of miscommunications. Please learn as much as you can so you don't make those problems. Anybody wants to share experiences of other cross-cultural miscommunications? Have any of you worked with other cultures and seen people that don't really understand what's happening, or you didn't understand what's happening?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Can you tell us what it was?
Yeah, like 4 years ago, I moved to the US and I was living with a host family. And well, I'm from Mexico, so we cannot drink water from tap water. That's not good. But in the US is like you drink water from the tap, and I didn't know that. So that was like a funny miscommunication I had.
What did they actually say? Did you think somebody told you to drink the tap water because they were trying to poison you or something?
No, I was just asking the family, like, where can I take water from, like, to drink? And they just said, oh, like the tap water. And it was weird for me because I didn't know you could do that in the US.
Did you think they were trying to insult you or kill you
No.
or make you sick or something? Good.
No, not at all.
So it could be viewed like that, right? If somebody, especially if you went from Mexico, went into Donald Trump's house and he thought that the Mexicans were bad, maybe he would say, oh, the bad people, you can just have the dirty water from the tap. That could be a huge miscommunication. So don't do that. Luckily, you were with a good family and they just showed you that in Canada, it's the same way. The tap water is perfectly clean. When I grew up, I always drank from the tap water. You can drink while you're taking a shower. You're watering your garden, and you can still drink from the hose. Yes, that's perfectly normal. Many places.
Is the water drinkable in the US?
Yes. Well,
from what I know, I mean, my aunt lives in Wilmington, Delaware, and they always have like these big bottles of water in their fridge, because they do not drink the tap water because it's like a lot of chlorine is in there. And I also had that smell in my nose, and I don't know it, like, because in Germany we have like one of the purest waters, and it's basically just groundwater, and you can drink it all. Like I drink it all the time. But when I also went here to a quarantine place, I wasn't able to, because it was so like the chlorine, like couldn't do it. That was like.
Actually, it depends on the community and it depends on the season. Sometimes in the rainy season, for example, the rain floods and washes a lot of garbage away very quickly, and it might get into the water reservoir, which could get into your taps. But usually in North America, in Canada, and in United States, you can drink the tap water, same as in Korea. You should be able to. In Seoul, for example, some of the most popular water bottles that are sold or given away are actually Seoul city water that's made from Seoul taps to promote the fact, and they're sold at incredibly cheap prices just to pay for the plastic in the bottle. Seoul City Hall gives away those bottles to promote the fact that you can drink tap water in Korea. But again, it depends on the time and the people. Some people, even if you do have good water, they still want something safer. And it could be because of biological problems, or it could be because of just marketing problems. Maybe the Nestle water bottle company did so much advertising saying that you should have something else that they believe it. In China, for example, a lot of people will believe what the companies say for advertising. Versus in the United States and Canada, I almost don't believe anything a company says. So it depends on your environment. I hope that clarifies things. Overall, the big thing is you are in Peru and probably in Mexico also, not broken down by sex, maybe by drinking. So there's lots of problems like this. Let's share lots of this. The more that we can share these details, the more we can get over it. We only have a few more minutes left. The more you can share this, the better. Overall, the more we learn about culture, the better. So communication and culture. Communication and culture are inseparable. Culture is a code we learn and share. Learning and sharing require communication. Communication requires coding and symbols that are learned and shared. It's not genetic. You can have a different culture than your grandparents. You can have a different culture than your parents. I am Canadian. However, I would not classify myself as having Canadian culture. I've been living in Korea for over 25 years, but 99% of Koreans would say I'm also still not Korean because I look differently. So if I'm not Canadian and I'm not Korean, my culture is actually what research calls a third culture child. I'm somewhere in between. I'm sort of an extra type of culture. And most of you that are working with international people or the international people that are now living and trying to survive in Korea, you are soon going to be a third culture child also. So definitions that we will be learning: international communications, communications between governments or nations; intra-cultural communication, communication between members of the same culture; global business communication, communication between businesses from different countries. I don't care what focus you have, anything is okay. We can do research projects and share international experiences about anything. Just do lots. So intercultural business communication or interpersonal communication within and between businesses that involve people from more than one culture. You would be surprised. This simple statement. For example, most people say international business. If I say Coca-Cola and international business, or IBM computers and international business, can anybody tell me where is IBM from?
I would say America.
Good. Anybody else? Anybody want to support him or tell him he's crazy? What about Kavinjani?
I have no idea, Professor.
Can you want to guess?
Maybe America.
Okay, good. What about Jung, Kang Jung? Mr. Jung, where do you think IBM is from?
I'm not so sure.
Okay. Surprisingly, initially, many years ago, IBM was American, but China bought it. For the last decade, IBM, which was supposed to be the world's best computers or the computer chips, has been Chinese. Same thing as what is the world's safest car? Some people say the Swedish Volvo car is supposed to be the safest. Where is that from? It is Chinese now. So a lot of people don't even understand those things that are around us every day. And if you understand that researching is supposed to be where you get the best information, a lot of the research articles, some studies have gone through and there was 11,000 research articles in the world's best, most respected journals about international communication, international business. 11,000 of them, almost 98% were talking about only United States. And they were written by only one culture person. And so that is definitely not international. It's not cross-cultural communication. It's just one country that's saying it's the world. Be aware of that. That is what is called the melting pot. United States culture is the melting pot. Sociocultural assimilation of people of differing backgrounds and nationalities implies losing ethnic differences and forming one large society, macro culture. So the melting pot, everybody gets added together inside the country, and then everybody is supposed to say y'all and like burritos and tacos and steak or barbecues and swimming pools. So that may be what some people say is the American culture. I'm not going to definitely say that's the rule, but it's something to think about. What about Canada? Some people say Canada and USA is the same. I'm initially from Canada. Is Canada the melting pot, or is that different?
I think pretty much same. Canada is also melting pot.
Oh no, terrible! You call us those pigs like Donald Trump. Terrible.
No, I mean, Canada also has many immigrants coming from Europe and Asia and different parts of the world.
And good. Thank you. So I'm just joking with you. I want you guys to be more lively in class. Absolutely. I'm not going to cry if you say anything or ask any questions. Canada is considered a multicultural society. You can see people from almost every culture in the world throughout Canada. I grew up, obviously, I don't know if you can see me very well, but I'm an Irish-Canadian ancestry. But on one side of me, there was a Korean family growing up. And on the other side of me, the next house was from Nigeria. And I didn't notice anything different about it. I just thought that was Canada. So they kept their culture. I heard people speaking Korean growing up, just in the neighbor's yard. So it's called a multicultural society versus melting pot. So the diffusion is the process by which two cultures learn and adapt materials and adopt the practices of each other. There's many things that we're going to be learning throughout class and talking throughout class. The idea of world culture versus globalization, those are things that I like. The idea that as traditional barriers among people of different cultures break down, hopefully, especially with coronavirus, especially with the move online, especially with the idea that people don't have to work inside a company building anymore, you can work online, so anybody can get the job, we start having a world culture. However, that's probably not going to be accepted because people like Donald Trump still control so much. Or globalization, the ability of a firm to take a product and market it around the entire civilized world, that is growing incredibly fast. So these processes are around us, whether we like it or not. Be aware of these details. Here's the definition of globalization versus localization versus globalization. There's a few other things we talk about, but what I want to end with is these pictures. These pictures are showing a video called East-West Video Part 1. You can see it here. Here's East-West Video Part 1 and Part 2. Here's another part of it. Please try to watch these videos. These videos are, again, listed. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can see that in there. And we can talk about that next class. Whatever you know about culture, hopefully you know a little bit more than Donald Trump, like I'm showing. But these videos, I found that I study this, I research this. My PhD is in international management and international cultures. And I found these examples shocking. And so hopefully you do too. So next class, I will ask you, I will quiz you. You have 3 different blocks here that you can see on the screen. The one that's circled belongs to which one? Or you have a monkey, a panda, and a bunch of bananas. Which two go together? Or here, which one is first? Of these alien aircraft, which one is first? And it depends on where you're from. It's not right, it's not wrong. It's just really shocking. They show people from different areas answer usually all the same, but it's different than people from the other side of the world. And so watch those videos.